What's going on, everybody? It is Overreaction Time once again. I'm your host, Simon Samano, and look who I got with me on the show this week. It is the one, the only, making his ORT debut, the OG of MMA Junkie Radio, Gorgeous George. What's good, George?
What's good in the hood, Simon, is that I'm invited on your show. Finally, I don't know, I guess you saved the best for last.
Main event.
I'm excited to get in here and chop it up with you.
Yeah, all right, man. Well, we got a lot to talk about with UFC Tampa and a bunch of other topics, so we're going to jump right into it. But before we do, please, if I could just let you guys know, I appreciate you tuning in. If you could please hit the like and subscribe button, that would mean a lot. And with that out of the way, George, you ready to go?
I'm down.
All right, let's do this. Kamikaze, you know what time it is. Hit it.
I mean, guys, what are you fucking? Is this tonight's stupid question night? Are you guys that fucking stupid? You can't be that fucking stupid. Who gives a shit? One of the dumbest things I've ever read in my life. Fucking common sense. Everybody knows that.
George, we're going to start with UFC Tampa and the main event at UFC Tampa, where we saw the return of Colby Covington against Joaquin Buckley. Joaquin Buckley, man, really put it on Colby Covington in this fight for 3 rounds before it was stopped due to the doctor stoppage because Colby basically was just busted up and he had a bad cut on his eye. Definitely was a heck of a performance from Joaquin Buckley, but I'm going to start with Colby Covington here, George, and let me hit you with a news flash. Colby Covington was a fraud this whole time. I said it.
Simon, do you want to restart the show or anything? Because come on, coming out of the gate with that one, that's an overreaction.
I said it, and I meant it.
The guy was a champion. And yes, it was an interim title. I'm never going to disrespect those. The journey to get there was pretty complicated for Colby. I mean, his job was threatened, and that's why he had to go in shtick mode, right? But he did put together like a 7 or 8 fight win streak. I'll grant you. I keep it real here. It was some former champions on the tail end, like a Lawler and a Woodley. So I get that. But I've had these discussions with what's recently happened with Colby Covington and Joaquin Buckley, for example. We're all saying, well, did Joaquin beat the best Colby? Maybe he's in his past. It's just part of the journey. You know, along the way, you are going to catch some people towards the tail end, or maybe you catch them a little early. But the wins are the wins. The win streaks are the win streaks, and the belts are the belts. Fraud is strong. I think that's an overreaction.
Well, when I say fraud, let me make this clear. I'm not saying that Colby Covington is a bad fighter or he sucks or he's not a good fighter. I'm just saying we've thought of Colby this entire time, basically for the last, 5 years, like he's one of the top 3 welterweights in the world. And you just hit the nail on the head for me, man. Every single victory that he said, this is results-oriented. This is a results-oriented business, dude. Every single fight that he's had, dating back to about, let's see, how many years here? Let's go all the way back to the interim title fight against Rafael dos Anjos. Rafael dos Anjos had just moved over from the lightweight division. He beat a lightweight, essentially, to claim the interim title. Then he beats Robbie Lawler on the decline. He beat Tyron Woodley on the decline. He beat Jorge Masvidal after Jorge Masvidal had his 15 minutes of fame, basically. And in between all that, we had the 2 fights to Usman that he lost and the title fight to Leon Edwards. That's 3 opportunities that this guy had to prove that he was the best in the world, and he couldn't do it. He fell short every single time. So when you combine that with the losses against all those guys who were on their decline, how can you think that he was anything but a fraud?
The last 5 years, he has seemed a little bit like what you're saying. He's
fought once a year dating back to 2020.
You kind of talked about his career as a whole, and let me say this part. When he fought Kamaru Usman after that run, he was up 2-0 going into the round 3, and then going into round 5, it was basically 2-2.
You lost, George.
When you do that against one of the all-time great welterweights, it tells me you're not a fraud. You're good, man. You're good.
He lost, George. He lost. Bottom line is he lost.
He did, but he didn't get smoked. He didn't get smoked in that fight.
He got finished. He got finished.
Well, but still, he hung with one of the best ever. And finishes are part of the sport, but again, he has a belt. He's got credible wins, so I would only say the decline hasn't been pretty. I'll grant you that, but he's not been a fraud as a welterweight.
Plus, can I just say this too, George? Like, his whole thing has been built on a fake character, this MAGA character, this Trump-loving MAGA character for the last 4 years. I mean, it started back after his win over Damian Maia, where, the filthy animals thing, we all remember that from 2019, and it only got worse from there. Maybe it was earlier than 2019. When was that? Was it 2019? It was 2017. Holy moly, man. The filthy animals, thing. I don't know, dude. Like, his whole career has been built on a shtick. And then you just look at the results, coming up short in the biggest moments. Couldn't get past Joaquin Buckley. He had an opportunity here in this fight. We haven't touched on that. He had an opportunity here to show that he still had something left to make a run. Came up short again. This is just a guy who's come up short repeatedly, and I'm sticking with it, George. He's a fraud.
He hasn't aged well, I'll grant you that. But that shtick might have saved his career, because I was on a military visit with him in 2017, and he felt like he wasn't going to get re-signed. And when he went down there in Brazil, caused commotion, stirred the pot, and got the win over a credible opponent, I think it helped save him. Now, has he gone too far since then? Yes, obviously. I think he had something going on with the Brazilians, maybe. And maybe there's another way of being a heel without attacking families and kids and moms
and race.
Yeah, I get all that for sure. But along the way, like I say, going back to what we do here, and that's, when we talk about the X's and O's, the actual fighting, I think he's built up enough of a resume to not say that this was a fraud.
Can I just say one last thing here?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty hilarious that this dude walked out with the big Donald Trump chain around his neck. Kissed it on the lips. Curious choice, interesting choice for a guy who just a few days earlier was questioning John Jones's sexuality in a media day, dude. So, man, a fitting conclusion, I think, to Colby Covington's, I guess, time at the top, because certainly, even though you think it's an overreaction that I'm calling him a fraud this whole time, we do agree on this. I think his time at the top of welterweight is done.
It's done. Yeah, he didn't look good 1 year ago. He didn't look good in this fight. And unless he fights another aging star like a Wonderboy Thompson or a Dorino Burns, then I just don't see one of the young cats like a Shav Cat, who already has a fight with probably Della Maddalena, Ian Gary. I don't think it'd be a good night for Colby.
All right. Well, we'll agree on that point then, and we'll move on to the next thing, all right, which I want to talk about now too. Joaquin Buckley. I would like to discuss Buckley because that was a heck of a performance by him. And let me go ahead and hit you with this one, George. Joaquin Buckley is the most dangerous fighter in the welterweight division.
I gotta soak this. No.
Soak it in. Soak it in. He is the most dangerous fighter in the welterweight division.
Ooh,
want me to read off the rankings?
He's the one that can pretty much leave you out like on the concrete, we'll say, right? At a bar or outside of a bar, and just make you look stupid, but let me tell you something, man. What Bilal Muhammad did to Leon Edwards in Manchester, that was a mauling that he did. I don't know if I'd want to be on the receiving end of a 5-round ass whooping like what Bilal Muhammad did, or just get clean KO'd by Buckley. Look, if it's not one, it's two. So I would say it's not an overreaction, because he is pretty violent for sure. That'd probably be the scariest guy, going into a fight because of what the result might be.
Exactly. And that's why I think he's the most dangerous. You want to call him scariest or most or the most dangerous? I mean, this is no disrespect to Bilal Muhammad or anybody else. I'm not even necessarily saying that Joaquin Buckley is the best fighter in the division or even the most skilled or the most polished or any of those things. But given what he showed us this past Saturday against Colby and that knockout power, dude, that power that he has in those hands. Credit to Colby. He took some hard shots. I will say that, and he withstood them, but we've seen it against Vicente Luque. We've seen it against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I mean, this dude is going to be a problem in 2025.
Just ask Ipa Kasanganay the same question. Let's see what he thinks. But hey, let me ask you something. Is this accepting that Khamzat Chimaev is now an 85er for life? Or because if he were to drop down, that looks like it's definitely not a walk in the park either.
Nah, this is accepting that Khamzat's a middleweight now, and he's going for a middleweight championship. But Joaquin Buckley coming down from middleweight to welterweight, clearly, man. I mean, I don't know who's more dangerous than him at the top of this division. Who's more dangerous? Who packs the punch?
Not an overreaction.
Yeah. So, anyways, what do you expect from him in 2025? Like, let me ask you this specifically. The call out afterwards on Saturday was, Kamaru Usman. Ultimately, he kind of asked the crowd, which I thought was really cool. Hey, who do you guys want to see me fight? That was awesome. And then we settled on Kamaru Usman. ultimately as the call out. What do you think about that fight, and who would you take in it early on now?
Yeah, I gotta commend him for that, because when he went down that road, I was thinking, oh boy, how's this gonna go? Because the crowd's starting to leave. You don't know, they're disappointed in the result. Is this gonna go good or bad? It reminded me of Paul Buentello. He used to say, "Don't fear me, fear the consequences." He wins a fight, and then he tells the crowd, "Hey, everybody, don't fear me." And nobody said, "Fear the consequences." Oh my, he got left hanging. So I thought the crowd might leave him hanging. They didn't. They were all about it. And let me tell you something. He should stay ready, because we don't know what's going to happen with Shafkat, right? With that MCL or that injury that he has. What's disappointing is I would like him to take some time off, because after fighting 4 times in 2024, man, I'd like to see him sometime around May or June, before he fights next. However, if Belal comes back and it ain't Shafkat, it should be Buckley, honestly. But let's say it is Shafkat and Belal, and that buys Buckley some time, then maybe that gets him to the middle of the year and he can come and fight. Now, would Usman want to wait that long? See, but we're talking about Buckley and what's best for Buckley. I think the Usman fight is perfect. It's a former champion, but make sure. I think right now the most important thing for Buckley is time off.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see how this goes. I'm surprised you think he needs the time off. He's been fighting great. I'm sure he wants to stay in a rhythm. So I could see him fighting in the first quarter of next year. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, man, I'm excited to see what Joaquin Buckley can bring after a 4-0 year this year. Dude is on the rise. So
yeah, for sure.
Good stuff coming from Buckley.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, man. Outside of the main event at UFC Tampa, we're going to talk about the rest of the card here. Now, this card started slow. It started pretty slow with 3 decisions. And then this card just took an insane left turn, man, with finish after finish. I'm talking Sean Woodson, TKOing Fernando Padilla. Started there. I'm talking Joel Alvarez with that crazy finish of Drakkar Klose by knockout, where he punched him and then caught him in the guillotine. I'm talking Michael Johnson catching Otman Izatar on a wild exchange there with that right hand that just put him out. Dustin Jacoby against Vitor Petrino just flatlined him and face planted him onto the canvas. And of course, we had Cub Swanson and Billy Quarantillo going at it. Cub Swanson with a heck of a finish in round 3 of Billy. Really brutal, really violent. So some great finishes, George, on this card. All right. But let me hit you with this. Oh, I should tell you this first. Sorry. We know that the bonuses went to Cub and Billy for the fight of the night. Yep. Then they went to Dustin Jacoby and to Michael Johnson for their performances of the night. But I'm going to tell you right now, the best finish of the night was robbed of a bonus.
Well, are you going to tell me who the finish is first, or
would you like? Who do you think I think was the best finish of the night?
So
I'll tell you.
The topic's been violence, and I guess the most violent KO that we saw. Oh boy.
I'll tell you what it was.
Okay, go ahead.
I think Joel Alvarez deserved a bonus. I think Joel Alvarez's bonus was finish was the best finish of the night. How are you going to land a flying knee?
Yeah.
And catch his unconscious body into a guillotine. Now I know it ends up going down as a knockout in the results, but to catch Drakkar Klose in the flying knee and then catch his limp body before it hits the canvas and get him in that guillotine and hit him with some more punches, dude, that should have gotten a bonus. That was the best finish of the night for me.
It's not an overreaction, and I'll tell you why. Because it's subjective, right? And your interpretation, you just backed it up really, really nicely for me, because I saw the whole card, enjoyed it. It did get violent at times, and I was digging it. But I'm a proponent of every finisher should get a bonus. But again, it's subjective, and so you backed it up. I think the only thing I would say is, let's say I'm a representative of the UFC, I'd say, well, I don't think too many people are going to argue with our fight of the night, Quarantillo and Cub.
Nope.
And then the Jacoby one, it's big dudes, and so maybe it had that look, because when he hit him, I remember he kind of like spun him like a corkscrew.
He did spin him.
So that kind of had a look to him. And then with Michael Johnson was the other one, right? Michael Johnson,
that was a little bit of a wild exchange there between the two of them, with Izatar coming in, and then Michael Johnson just kind of caught him with the right hook.
It was a clean one too. More. So, and Joel Alvarez didn't miss weight. So yeah, he should have walked away. with some dough. Like, that's when Dana White should just go, it's the end of the year. We had a great year. Screw it. I'm giving away five bonuses, or just give every finisher a bonus because it was great. And that's what the fans, come out for. So it's not an overreaction at all. I think the UFC got it right it was, if they're going to limit themselves to the 200K, or the other thing would have been to just say, hey, let's just give 4 performances of the night and reward guys that won in devastating fashion versus a guy, no disrespect to Billy Q, getting one off the loss, but he's the local guy. I'm sure he helps sell a lot of tickets. It's a tough one, man, but that's why I've always been all about just get all the finishers bonuses.
Yeah, no, and I would have been okay. Like, it's the holiday season, Christmas bonuses for everybody, right? I mean, for everybody who had a finish, because all those finishes, none of them were boring. Even if you go back to the Sean Woodson finish, which was like a 4 or 5 punch combo, all these finishes were not. They were not. They were violent finishes.
Manel Cop.
If you think about the Dustin Jacoby, though, that fight was kind of whatever leading up to it. They were getting booed. They were getting booed during that fight, and then we had to finish late in the 3rd round, and it's a performance of the bonus, performance of the night bonus. I mean, if you're going with performance,
right,
Alvarez should have been the one who got it over Jacoby, if you ask me. That's
yes, because the performance was lacking until the finish.
Until the finish.
So we interpreted like the way they want us to. Yes, I agree. I guess him sitting there and saying, we filled out the arena again and we broke more records, it's like, hey, man, the money's there. Start rewarding the people that do get these finishes. That way you leave out that controversy, and you also, just get more money in these guys' pockets. And that's the type of fight that they will start the fight, especially at the end when they can smell the blood and they want to go for it. They start hunting a little bit more for the finish.
Yeah, we needed Dana Claus. We didn't get Dana Claus. So, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. We're going to move on from UFC Tampa. And we're going to talk a little bit now about Ilia Topuria, the UFC featherweight champion, who has been talking about wanting to move to lightweight, specifically has interest in fighting Charles Oliveira. All right. So let me hit you with this one right here, George. Ilia Topuria moving to lightweight would be a good move for his career.
That's an overreaction, Simon.
Ooh, instant overreaction from you. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I know. I this one's been festering within me for the past week, ever since I heard that crazy Spaniard / Georgian / German say this. I don't know what he's thinking. You still got Diego Lopez left, and you got to give Volk his credit. You gave him the credit in the octagon. This guy defended it 5 times. He's probably the greatest featherweight ever. Not the greatest featherweight champion ever. That's Jose Aldo with 9 title defenses, 7 in the UFC, 2 in the WEC, but he's the greatest featherweight ever. He defended it 5 times. He's been classy. He sat out a good amount of time to rest his brain after the Makhachev and Topuria KOs. He deserves for you to run it back. I'd even say in Australia, if we can't get it done in Spain, because I'm all about Spain first, and I'm sure Alexander the Great would agree with that. But he's got to give the champ a chance to run it back, and then Diego Lopez, who's on a roll, I think he'd be a good way to say I beat an old guard and a young up and comer, which is what John Jones is getting accused of. Hey, you're dodging the up and comer, and then after that, I might be open to it because he is undefeated. And look, any fighter that proclaims I'm having a tough time making a weight and I'm doing it for health reasons, okay, but I don't think he's one of those guys. I think he's on the smaller end of 45 personally, but I just think he needs to kick back a little bit, clean out your division. It's not always about you, it's about your division, and then move up. Because look, at 55, we already know that there's a fight happening at 311, right? Makhachev against Sarukian, and then you got Oliveira waiting in the wings. I even left out Movsar Evloev now that I think about it.
You did leave out Movsar Evloev.
He's got 3 credible guys waiting for him. And Simon, I know I refer to this a lot, but I'm proud of it. At MMA Junkie, we did the whole 30 greatest fighters over the past 30 years. And I'm always going to point to this because that project that we did, at the end, when I saw who the top guys were that all of us did as a whole, it was all the legends that backed it up with title defenses. And I'm just encouraging young fighters to think about that. Champ didn't matter as much. Title defenses somehow did.
Right. Okay. So let me tell you where I'm coming from with this, George. All right. First of all, when you talked about Ilia Topuria and the weight cutting, I don't know if you saw, but his coach Jorge Clement did come out and say in an interview with Submission Radio that the real thing that he thinks is that Topuria hates the weight cut, that it's a tough weight cut for him, and that he doesn't like it. It takes a toll on him. But where I'm so I just wanted to correct you there on something that you said. Like,
Okay.
Again, whether or not we're going to take that, that's what Clement said. But where I'm really coming from with this, though, and Ilia moving to lightweight, and why I think it's a good move for his career. Here's the thing. Here's what I think. Topuria just did the greatest thing that he could do in this division in one calendar year. He knocked out the two of the three greatest guys in this division in Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. What else can he do in this division that's going to ever top what he just did in his first year becoming champion and then defending it? Nothing. There's nothing else that he can do in this division. So from that perspective,
he can go after Volkanovski's record for most title defenses.
Sure,
sorry, I guess it's even Aldo's.
Yeah, but sure, he could go for more title defenses, and that's what you would do. But if he's struggling with the weight cut, and he just had the greatest year that he could possibly have in this division, I think it's a good move for him to move to go to lightweight. Now, the other thing I'll say is that I appreciate that, unlike, let's just say, a Conor McGregor situation years back, where he beat Jose Aldo, and then instantly after that got a title shot. Well, not instantly, I guess it was the Nate Diaz fight happened first, but then he got the title shot once he moved to lightweight. Didn't have to fight anybody. I admire the fact that this dude's calling out Charles Oliveira, that he wants a tough fight before he can fight for the title. I mean, I just think he's got a lot to prove in lightweight. I don't think he's got that much more to prove at featherweight, given what he just did.
Again, the health issues trump all, in my opinion. So if that's the case, then going up, he is handling it the right way, because he's not trying to push aside a number one contender like a Suzuki and saying, out of my way, champ. No, I like that he's targeting somebody that's not a jabroni. And right now, Charles Oliveira is definitely not a jabroni.
One of the most dangerous guys in that division.
And he's dangerous. So yeah, if he's going about it, is he going about it the right way? For sure. Right. But I still think he's got work to do. And then guess what? He backtracks and says, oh, I'm not leaving it vacant. Well, what does that mean? You're trying to fulfill the whole champ thing if you're not leaving it vacant. And so what are you doing? You're stalling out a division that has guys that are gunning for you. One guy weighed in case one of you two didn't make weight. He's waiting for you. The champ is well deserving of a rematch. He never bitched about it that he didn't get it. He stepped aside, and then you got an undefeated fighter, Mozar Evloev, who's almost, I think he's either 20-0 or 19-0. That's pretty damn impressive.
All right. Well, listen, dude, I would be excited to see Ilia Topuria at lightweight. I think his knockout power translates. It would be fun. It would be fun. There's some good fights there for him at lightweight. I think it's a good move for his career, but I guess we'll see what happens. Dana doesn't seem too fond of it. I think his reaction, I think he was asked about it this past Saturday, and I don't think he was really all about it. So,
one thing if I can add, Simon, is with John Jones, remember he's such a phenomenal fighter. We just stick to fighting. But then they told him, hey, if you really want to make money, move up to heavyweight, which I thought was bizarre, because so many young fighters that weigh less than him have made more money, right? So the only thing I can think of is, if for whatever reason Topuria stands to make way more as a 55er, parlayed with the health stuff that we talked about, his coach saying it's a tough weight cut, then maybe I can see the incentive there, right? But does he still have stuff to do at 45? Yes. And I think Topuria can make 45 great, the way Conor made lightweight great and made the heavier guys make less money than he did because he made himself such an international brand. I think Topuria could do the same thing.
All right. Well, we'll see how it unfolds. Maybe it's unlikely, but we'll see how it unfolds. I just think it would be a really good move for his career. Hey, we'll see how it plays out. We agree to disagree on that one. All right. Okay, Let's move on to something coming out of UFC 310. I didn't really want to talk about this on the last episode of Overreaction Time, just because we hadn't really heard much from Demetrious Johnson at the time of our recording. But as you know, back at UFC 310, Alexandre Pantoja, after his win over Kaya Sakura, he made a surprise call out of DJ. And in the ensuing couple days afterwards, we heard from DJ. We really did. And he has no interest in that fight.
Simon, don't go there.
I'm just going to let you know right now, George, that Demetrious Johnson was wise to brush off Alexandre Pantoja's call out.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say Pantoja's the greatest. Okay.
No way, dude. Okay. Come on,
I can catch my breath a little bit here. All right.
So, are you crazy? I would never say that.
Yeah, he's 38 years old. He hasn't fought much lately. DJ doesn't look like he ages like some of the others. Like it's a slow decline, you know, like whatever that degree is of a decline, it's not like falling off a cliff. And he's so well-rounded with skills. Like he can do it all and he's so fast. But the Pantoja that just fought 11 days ago or whatever that is, 9 days ago, looked phenomenal, honestly. So I think you might be right, man. I think this is not an overreaction. But oh man, yeah,
I'm sure like we would want to.
I think it's a well thought out, not an overreaction.
Yeah, like I'm sure I would love to see the fight, and I'm sure you would love to see the fight. I mean, just thinking of DJ coming back and fighting Pantoja, great matchup. You know, the last that we saw of DJ, he still had it. You know, but he walked away from this sport. He retired comfortably. And he made it really clear, like he is comfortable in retirement. Yeah. And he really has nothing to prove. Like there is nothing for DJ to prove. He's got 11 consecutive titles.
He handled it the right way too.
Yeah, man. Like 11 consecutive title defenses as a UFC flyweight champion. Nothing to prove. As much as I'd love to see the matchup, I think it's wise for him. And can I just say, I commend DJ for his outlook on this. The way he spoke in the interview with Ariel, and he talked about he doesn't understand why some of these guys do come back and fight. Like if you think about like Jose Aldo, for instance, you know, a guy whose career at one point you would say kind of parallel DJ's where he just ruled the division for so long. Well, here we are, and you know, Jose Aldo's still fighting, but he's fighting guys like Jonathan Martinez and Mario Bautista. And it's like, you know, everybody has their own reasons, I guess, for fighting. And so I don't want to like shit on Jose Aldo for still fighting, whatever it is, but I just commend DJ for having that wherewithal, that approach to be like, you know what, I don't need to keep doing this. I already proved myself.
And he shut it down quickly. He did it with class. He didn't disrespect Pantoja, so he handled that correctly. The only thing I can think of is Aldo doesn't have a poppin' YouTube channel like Mighty Mouse, and he's not good at video games. And he's got the whole Twitch thing going on like with Mighty Mouse. It sounds like Mighty Mouse has a stream of income that he's comfortable with. You know, he's breaking down fights. He's having fun. But I will say this on the way out. Even though I think you're right, he was probably wise, right, to not do it. It doesn't mean that I don't think he could have won it. I think it would have been a hell of a fight.
Yeah.
But I will say this. From what I've seen out of the last two, it was either going to be 5-5 if they fought 10 times, or if he's told me, nope, it's going to be 6-4 and I know the result, then I'd probably go, yeah, then it was probably Pantoja.
Yeah.
Because Pantoja looked good, man.
He looks great, but I think if he did fight DJ, it would be a close fight. I mean, I think it would be a really close fight. You know, Pantoja's 34 years old. He's kind of coming up. You know, we'll see how the speed keeps up with him, you know, as he gets older in this division. But, yeah, it'd be a close fight. It'd be a really close fight. And I'd love to see it, but I commend DJ for not even taking it.
If this was the DJ coming off the Road Tang fight, I'd probably say no. DJ still will win, but that was like 2-3 years ago. And, you know, Father Time is not undefeated, but he's given out quite a few L's.
Gotcha. He's not undefeated. He did not beat DJ, so good for him.
He didn't beat Cub Swanson. He didn't beat Tom Brady when he went over to the Buccaneers. He's taking a few L's. All
right, man. All right. We're gonna move on to one last topic here, George. A fight that got announced this past week is gonna happen at UFC Saudi Arabia in February, where Israel Adesanya is going to come back and fight in his first non-title fight, I think in like 6 years or something like that, when he takes on Nasruddin Imavov.
I know where this is headed.
Oh, do you?
I think so.
Here we go. I'm going to hit you with this one, all right? Mm-hmm. The pressure is on Izzy to win definitively at UFC Saudi Arabia.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say something else.
You trying to guess my
Oh,
overreactions here. You think
I
you know me.
know, I know. I feel like I'm starting to get a gauge of where you're headed.
Pressure's on Izzy.
The pressure's on Izzy.
He needs to win definitively against Nasruddin Imavov. He cannot have.
Why does he need to do that though? Are we talking about for legacy or title shots or to impress
We're talking
the
about for him
Saudi
still.
Arabian?
Yeah, he's got to show us that for him staying at the top of the division, if he wants to go for the title again, you can't lose to Nasruddin Imavov.
Correct.
And I think more importantly, to really show and prove that you still have something, I think we need something definitive and impressive from him in this event, in this fight. He's lost 3 of his past 4 fights. He had the one knockout of Alex Pereira, but the fact that he could not build off of that one and has lost his last 2 fights back to back, I think it's concerning. And I think Izzy, if I'm not mistaken, he hasn't talked about retirement, I don't think openly, but the way he the words, you can sort of read between the lines, how he's starting to maybe just get comfortable with his legacy and where he's at. And if that's the case, then great. But if he wants another title shot and he wants to try and reclaim that title, I think he's got to show us something in this fight.
It's not an overreaction, and that bums me out because I came into the show going, I want to give him 6 overreactions. Folks, you got to understand, this is the boss over here, and it's not often that you can say, fool, you're tripping, which is kind of what we're doing here on Overreaction. But yeah, you're right. I mean, look, I think what he wants to do no matter what is wear gold. All right. And honestly, he didn't look bad against DDP until DDP put it on him, but he actually was fighting a pretty decent fight. So yeah, he's got to win, but he's got to hold off Khamzat Chimaev, who's one of the guys chasing DDP, and he's also got to fight off, if Strickland were to win and they're 1-1, the UFC's urged to give us a trilogy. So yeah, this is the way you do it. The same way Buckley kind of put it in our head, hey, if Shavkat's not ready to go, I am. That's what this guy needs to do, is impress. And so yeah, you can't just win a dull decision over Nasruddin Imavov. No disrespect to him, but you got to smash him because you're fighting for something else, and that's a title shot and to back off the other chasers, the other ones that want to be in that same pole position that you're trying to get.
Yeah, he's got to push it. I think Izzy's got to push the pace and fight, not fight not to lose. He should fight to win. You know what I mean? He can't just go in there and give us some dull, 5 rounds, outpointing him. I mean, we've seen Izzy talk a big game and not come through before with decision after decision against Vettori, against Whitaker, against Cannonier. Then he got knocked out by Pereira in the first fight. And then when he came back with the Pereira knockout, it's almost like Izzy reached like his own personal top, like he conquered his demon, and he's come down since then. And I just feel like a third loss, heaven forbid he loses to Nasruddin Imavov. I mean, what are we talking about? What are we talking about if he loses 3 in a row and it's to this guy? No disrespect to Imavov, but this is a guy who's always fought big names, big fights. And I'm not saying this isn't a big fight, but it's a fight night. It's not a pay-per-view. And it's Nasruddin Imavov. This is not a guy that you can afford to lose to. Final word to you, George.
Yeah, and I would say this. There's 2 ways that he can go about this and really impress. One is just knock him out in the first round pretty quick. Hey, there's levels to this. Sit on top of the octagon, soak it all up, and I mean, you leave no doubt. But one thing I'd like to see from Izzy is, if this fight does go into deep waters, if you can finish him late in the 4th or even sometime in the 5th, prove to me that you got that cardio, because I think a lot of fights he's losing because he's declining in the championship rounds. And if he can prove to us that that's not the case, as he's aging, he still has the skills, the timing, the speed, all that, then man, he could really, really tick some boxes there in convincing me that he has something for like a DDP. DDP used to be a guy that was huffing and puffing after round 1. Oh, it's this breathing thing. It's a nasal thing. Okay, you got it fixed, but he's still huffing and puffing. But guess what? He's digging deep and winning fights, and he's getting stronger as the fight progresses. That's what I'd like to see out of Izzy against Nasruddin Imavov.
All right. Well, we'll see if he delivers, but we agree, or at least we know it's not an overreaction. He's got to give us something big in February. All right, George. Well, the time for overreacting has come to an end. I hope you enjoyed yourself on the show. Did you?
I did. I wanted to give you 6 straight overreactions, but I couldn't because you did an excellent job, Simon. There's that saying about the rock and the hard place. I really felt like I was there, and you made me think deeply and profoundly, and that's what I love about this show. So thank you for having me. I'll come back anytime. Hang on, let me hit that like button real quick while we're at
it for me, please. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you for being on the show. And for everybody who's tuned in this long, I appreciate you guys very much. Please, if you haven't, hit that like and subscribe button. But we will be back next week with another edition of Overreaction Time. Until then, so long.
MMA Junkie AI.